For years, he sent money home, trusting his family with everything he owned. But when he returned as a broke deportee, he finally learned the truth about their love. Caleb had been living in the USA for so many years. Life wasn't easy for him when he started, but he kept pushing and working hard. Even though he was far from home, his heart remained in Nigeria, with his wife, Jennifer, and his family. He never forgot his roots. He sent money regularly to his elder brother, Felix, to build a mansion for him and Jennifer, so they would have a comfortable place to stay when he returns. He also sent money to his wife, Jennifer, to open a big supermarket, something they planned would become their retirement business. Jennifer opened it and managed it well. Caleb trusted her completely. Every month, Caleb also sent money to Felix to take care of their aged mother, Mama Stella. He paid for her food, her medicine, and everything she needed. Usually, on the phone, Felix always said the same thing. "Brother, don't worry. I've done everything just as you said. Mama is okay. The house is almost done." Caleb was happy. To him, life was finally falling into place. He worked, he saved, and he sent. But one evening, after a long day at work, he sat in his room in the USA and looked at his family's pictures on WhatsApp. Felix looking fine, Mama Stella looking healthy, and Jennifer looking beautiful. He smiled but then sat up. A question dropped in his heart. All these years, do they really love me? Or do they just love what I send to them? It was a hard question, but it stayed in his mind. After many sleepless nights, Caleb made a decision. He would come back to Nigeria quietly, not as a successful man with luggage and plans, but as a deportee. No announcement, no drama. He just wanted to see with his own eyes how they would treat him if they believed he had nothing left. A few days later, Caleb arrived in Nigeria. He went straight to his brother Felix's house, dragging an old travel bag, dressed simply, looking tired. When Felix saw him at the gate, he was shocked. "Caleb." "Yes, brother. I wanted to surprise you." Felix opened the gate slowly and welcomed him in. "You didn't tell me you were coming back. We just spoke last week." Caleb smiled weakly. "I know. I just wanted to come quietly." Felix led him inside his big, beautiful mansion. Caleb noticed the house was already well furnished, tiled, and shining with luxury, but he didn't say a word. He sat in the guest's room quietly. No questions. No complaints. He just observed. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Felix stepped out onto the balcony. The air was calm, but his heart wasn't. He was pacing back and forth, talking to himself. Why did he come back just like that? He should have stayed longer. Now everything I've built here will scatter. I've made everyone believe I'm the one doing everything. Paying the bills, building the house, caring for Mama. Even Jennifer sees me like a helper. Why now? Why? He sighed and rubbed his head. Unknown to him, Caleb had quietly walked to the balcony too. He stood behind Felix and said softly, "My brother, why are you worried like this?" Felix turned, startled. "Oh, Caleb, I didn't know you were standing there." Caleb looked down and took a deep breath. "Felix, I was deported because I was framed in the USA for a crime I didn't commit. They took everything I had, my savings and my properties. Everything. They deported me with nothing. I have nothing left. I can't go back, brother. I plan to start afresh here. Maybe a small business. I will try to survive." Felix stood still. His face froze. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. He didn't know what to say. For the first time in a long while, he was speechless. Caleb looked into his eyes and smiled sadly. "But don't worry. I don't plan to disturb anyone. I just want peace, and maybe, with time, I'll rise again." Felix was quiet for a while, trying to understand everything Caleb just said. "You mean, you came back with no money?" Felix asked again. Caleb nodded slowly, pain in his eyes. "I didn't plan for it, Felix. I was deported. Everything happened so fast. I just found myself back in Nigeria. I had no choice. But thank God I was still able to send you enough money all these years. At least, the house I asked you to build." Felix stood up sharply from the balcony chair, cutting him off. Which house are you talking about? Caleb looked up at him in confusion. The mansion you assured me you were building. The money I sent every month. Felix, I trusted you. Felix's eyes were now full of anger. Caleb, please don't provoke me this night. Which house? Did I force you to send money? Am I your servant? Caleb stood to his feet, his voice calm but firm. Felix, what are you saying? All the years I worked myself to the bone, I sent you money to build a house for me. You told me you've done everything according to plan. You even sent pictures. Felix shouted, pointing at Caleb. I don't owe you anything, Caleb. I did what I could. And if you think this mansion is yours, then you must be dreaming. Caleb took a step forward, his voice now shaking with pain. What, Felix? Are you saying, this house I'm standing in, the one I thought was mine, is not my house? Felix laughed dryly. This is my house. I built it. I sweated for it. Caleb's heart sank. With whose money, Felix? With whose sweat? I never stopped sending you money. I trusted you with everything. And this is what I get. Felix clenched his fists, his hands shaking with rage. If you came back here expecting me to roll out the red carpet for you, then you better wake up. I don't have anything for you. Go and hustle like every other man. Caleb stood in silence. His heart was beating fast, but not from anger, from shock. So this is it, he whispered. This is what my love and trust brought me. Caleb turned around and began walking slowly back into the house. But just before entering, he paused and looked back at Felix with tears in his eyes. I only came to see love, not war. But now I see the truth clearly. And with that, Caleb left the balcony, his heart heavy, his hope crushed. Felix remained outside, staring into the dark sky, breathing heavily. Guilt started to sneak into his chest, but he pushed it aside. The next day, both Caleb and Felix traveled to the village to see their mother. The journey was quiet, cold air sitting between them in the car. No words, no smiles, only tension. When they arrived, their aged mother, Mama Stella, came out slowly with her walking stick, smiling as she opened her arms. My sons are home. Caleb forced a weak smile and hugged her, but his heart was boiling. Felix greeted her too, acting as if nothing was wrong. They sat under the mango tree in front of the house. Chickens moved around lazily as the hot sun beat down. Suddenly, Caleb broke the silence. Mama, I suffered so much abroad. I worked day and night in the cold just to build a better life for us. I kept sending money to my brother, my own blood, to build a house for me and to take care of you. But now, Mama, this is what I get in return. Mama Stella looked confused. What are you talking about, Caleb? Caleb's voice cracked with emotion. Mama, I didn't come back rich. I was deported. They took everything I had. I returned to Nigeria with nothing. I thought at least I would have the house I worked for. But, Mama, Felix has claimed it as his own. Mama Stella blinked in shock. She turned slowly to Felix. Is this true? Felix didn't say a word. She turned back to Caleb and tried to hold his hand. My son, I know it hurts. But listen to me. When you go back to the USA, you can make money again. Don't worry. Caleb pulled his hand away, standing to his feet, voice rising. Mama, I can't go back. I told you I was deported. I came back with nothing. Nothing. Mama Stella gasped. Caleb continued, his eyes burning. And you think Felix was the one taking care of you? Mama, I sent him every kobo you needed. I sent the money for your food, for your drugs, for everything. Mama Stella looked at Felix, then slowly looked down. She whispered to herself, if I support Caleb now, Felix might get angry and abandon me, and stop sending me money. I'm too old to suffer again. Felix suddenly stood up, clapping his hands in anger. Mama, don't let him confuse you. I don't owe him anything. Caleb faced him. Felix, after everything I've done for you, what did you ever do for me? Just tell me one thing. One thing. Felix shouted back. Did I sign anywhere that the house is yours? Where is the paper that says the house is in your name? Caleb, you're shouting as if I was the one that deported you. Caleb's chest rose and fell as he tried to hold back tears. "Mama, I don't want to fight. I just wanted to come home and start afresh. But what kind of family does this?" Mama Stella looked from one son to the other, speechless. A mother caught in the middle of betrayal and fear. The quietness that followed was painful. Just then, a neighbor passing by noticed them and called out with excitement, "Mama Stella, see your sons. God has blessed you." But inside that compound, there was no blessing, only broken trust. The news of the tension between Caleb and Felix began to spread quietly around the village. It wasn't long before their uncles, Mr. Maxwell and Mr. George, heard of it and decided to step in. "These boys must not bring disgrace to the family," Mr. Maxwell said, stroking his white beard. The next morning, they invited both Caleb and Felix to Mr. Maxwell's house to settle the matter like a family. The compound was quiet, only the sound of goats and a distant radio playing old high-life music in the background. Felix came dressed smartly, looking relaxed. Caleb came looking worn, but calm. Chairs were arranged under the guava tree, 4 plastic chairs, 1 for each man. A jug of water and 2 cups sat on a small stool in the middle. The elders sat with their hands crossed, watching the 2 brothers. Mr. Maxwell began, "We are not here to shout. We are here to understand. Caleb, speak your own." Caleb cleared his throat, voice filled with emotion. "I left Nigeria many years ago to hustle in the USA. It wasn't easy. I suffered. But every month, I sent money to my brother Felix, money to build a house for me, so I would have a place to stay when I return with my wife. I also sent money for our mother's upkeep, every single thing. Now I've come back, and I see a mansion, beautiful, big, the same place Felix promised he was building for me. But he says it's not mine." The uncles looked at each other. Felix scoffed and stood up. "Please, let me ask him, Caleb, where is the document that shows the mansion is yours? Do you have any signature, any land paper, anything with your name on it?" Caleb stood too, voice shaking. "I don't have documents. I wasn't in the country. I trusted my own brother. I sent him every kobo for the land, for the cement, the blocks, everything. Is that not enough proof?" Mr. George sighed deeply and looked at Caleb. "But you know how things work in this country. Without documents, there's no proof of ownership. Even if it was your money, you should have secured some papers." Mr. Maxwell added softly, "Caleb, are you saying you have nothing at all? No receipts, no land documents, not even a single witness?" Caleb shook his head slowly. "All I had was trust." The 2 uncles leaned back and looked at each other. After a long pause, Mr. Maxwell finally said, "Since there is no document tying that land or house to you, legally, it belongs to Felix. You may have sent the money, yes, but you were not here, and you didn't secure anything in your name." Caleb's heart dropped. "So, that's it? My own brother gets to take everything, because I trusted him." Felix suddenly clapped loudly and shouted, "Thank you. At least someone is talking sense. I'm tired of this drama." He grabbed his phone and stormed out of the compound in anger, leaving everyone in silence. Caleb sat back down slowly, his eyes wet. "So this is how family works now." The uncles said nothing. Only the birds in the tree above answered with soft chirps. Back in the city that evening, Caleb sat quietly in the corner of the guest room, alone. The lights were off. Only the dim glow from the street light outside the window lit his face. His eyes were red and swollen from crying. He held his head in his hands and whispered to himself, his voice shaking, "What have I done to deserve this kind of betrayal from my own brother? Even Mama, she turned her back on me. My uncles, the same people I respected, the same family I suffered and sacrificed for, now act like I don't exist." A tear rolled down his cheek. He wiped it quietly, sighing deeply, like a man who had lost everything, yet still trying to hold on. The next morning, in the master bedroom, Felix's wife rolled over and tapped her husband. "Darling, please, what is your brother still doing here? You know I've not even cooked properly for 2 days. I have no food to waste on him. Let him go back to his wife." Felix grunted as he stood up. "Don't worry. I'll tell him to leave immediately." That morning, after breakfast, Felix walked into Caleb's room. His hands were in his pockets, his face hard. "Caleb, I think it's time you find somewhere else to stay. I'm giving you just a few days to leave this house." Caleb slowly looked up, confused. What did you just say?" Felix leaned against the doorframe, cold as ice. "Leave my house, or I'll call the police on you." Caleb stood to his feet slowly, his heart burning inside. "Felix, I still can't believe it. I gave you money for this very house. I gave you money for the business you're doing now. I sacrificed my own comfort so you can live well. And this is what I get." Felix didn't blink. "That's your problem. You acted like a fool." Caleb nodded slowly, his eyes full of silent pain. "Okay, I will leave your house. But remember this, the foundation of this mansion is built on betrayal and lies. One day, you will see it with your own eyes." With that, Caleb picked up his small bag, just one old travel bag. He owned nothing anymore. No car, no house, no money, not even a friend. Just brokenness and tears. He walked out of the house slowly, one step at a time. Felix didn't stop him. His wife didn't come out. No one waved goodbye. The door closed behind him, and Caleb was all alone again. He entered a taxi, heading to see his wife and little daughter. There was excitement in his heart, and he smiled all through the trip, remembering all the video call moments he had shared with his daughter. Caleb arrived at his wife Jennifer's apartment late in the afternoon. He stood at the doorway, his small travel bag hanging loosely in his hand. His heart raced with hope. He expected to see a smile from Jennifer, maybe even a tear of joy. But there was nothing. Jennifer stood still, her face blank. "Caleb, why didn't you tell me you were coming back? Why did you come back so suddenly?" Caleb's heart sank. I came back last week. I was staying at Felix's house for a while. Then we traveled to the village to see Mama and..." Jennifer raised her hand sharply, cutting him off. "That is not what I asked you. I said, why did you come back?" Caleb swallowed hard. "Jennifer, I was deported. I was framed and accused. They took everything I worked for, left me with nothing, and sent me back home. I came back with only a few of my clothes." Jennifer's eyes narrowed. "So, after so many years, you came back with nothing. You have the guts to show yourself, eh? You were supposed to come back as a man, with money. So who exactly do you expect to feed you now?" Caleb's mouth opened in shock. "Jennifer, what are you saying? Have you forgotten we have a joint supermarket business? I worked so hard and sent you money to set up everything you needed. I gave you the capital to make it big. You're acting like I have nothing to do with it." Jennifer folded her arms. "Do you even know how much effort and hard work I've put into this business? And now you come back empty-handed, expecting me to clap for you." Caleb stepped closer, voice trembling. "What are you saying, Jennifer? This is our dream business. I worked day and night so you could handle it for our future. That's why I gave you enough money to make it big." Jennifer laughed coldly. "Yes, you worked hard, but you wasted all your money on your family. You sent money to your brother, to your mother, to everyone else, and forgot yourself. Look at you now, a man who couldn't even secure his own future. How can you secure our future when you can't even secure your own? You should be ashamed to stand here after so many years away. You left when your daughter was 2 years old. Now she's 9, and you came back with nothing." Her lips curved into a mocking smile. "Maybe I should open a wine for us, to celebrate your failure." Caleb's heart twisted painfully. "Jennifer, I can't believe this is you. After all the love, the trust, the years apart. You never lacked anything while I was away. I made sure of that. I sacrificed for you." Jennifer's voice turned cold. "I can't accommodate a failure like you. I have no business with a useless man. Go back to the family you lavished your money on. They should take care of you now." Caleb's chest tightened as he fought back tears. He realized it. Every single person he had labored and sacrificed for had turned their back on him when he needed them the most. As he turned to leave, his 9-year-old daughter ran toward him, tears in her eyes. "Daddy," she cried, stretching out her arms. But before she could reach him, Jennifer's sharp voice cut through the air. "Go back inside. You've lived without a father all these years. You don't need him now." The little girl froze, her lips trembling, before slowly turning back toward the house. Caleb stood there, his whole world collapsing inside him. He turned away, walking down the street with tears streaming down his face, his small bag feeling heavier than it ever had before. Caleb walked down the lonely street, his small bag in one hand, his heart feeling heavier than the world itself. The woman he loved the most, his own wife, had just shut the door in his face. The brother he trusted with his life had stolen his house. His own mother had turned her back on him. And now, the dream he once carried, the dream of coming home to a peaceful family and a house built with his sweat, was nothing but ashes. The night breeze brushed against his skin, but it didn't cool the fire of pain in his chest. Every step he took felt like walking deeper into regret. How did I get here? He thought. Was I wrong to trust them? Was I wrong to believe blood would stand by me? Cars passed by, their headlights flashing briefly on his tired face. Nobody cared to ask why a man in clean but worn clothes was walking aimlessly with a travel bag at night. As he turned a corner, he noticed a large iron gate with a sign boldly pinned on it. Gateman needed. Urgent. He stopped. His eyes stayed fixed on the paper. For a long moment, he just stood there, breathing heavily. Part of him wanted to keep walking, but another part whispered, "You have nowhere else to go. This might be the only roof over your head tonight." After a few minutes of silent debate with himself, he stepped forward, pushed the small gate, and entered. The compound was massive, white walls, a big garden, and a long driveway leading to a mansion. He felt a sharp stab in his heart. It reminded him of the house that should have been his. A tall man in a security uniform came out from a small security post near the gate. "Yes, can I help you?" Caleb cleared his throat. "I saw the sign outside. I want to apply for the job." The man eyed him up and down. "Wait here." Minutes later, a middle-aged man in a neatly pressed shirt came out from the main house. "You're here for the gateman job?" "Yes, sir," Caleb replied softly. The man studied his face, then nodded. "All right. You start today. You'll stay in the small room beside the gate. Your job is to keep this place secure. You'll be paid monthly, with food provided. Do you agree?" "Yes, sir," Caleb answered quickly. His voice held no pride, only quiet relief. And just like that, the man who once sent millions across the ocean became a gateman. That night, he sat alone in the tiny gatehouse, staring at the bare walls. His mind drifted to Felix, probably relaxing in his mansion right now, sipping wine, enjoying the luxury built with Caleb's sweat. He imagined Jennifer locking up the supermarket, heading to bed without a second thought about him. Caleb closed his eyes and muttered under his breath, "This was exactly why I came back this way. I wanted to know the truth, to see if my family truly loved me, or only the money I sent. Now I know. When the money is gone, their love disappears too." However, the pain was deep, but somewhere inside him, a fire began to burn again. The fire of a man who had lost everything, yet was not done. While Caleb was settling into his new life as a gateman, far away across the city, Felix was living like a king. The mansion stood tall and proud, with shiny walls and bright lights that could be seen from the street. Every evening, the sound of music filled the compound. The neighbors often saw him driving different cars, some new, some borrowed, just to show off. Felix would sit in his wide leather chair in the sitting room, his legs stretched out, sipping cold drinks while scrolling through his phone. To anyone who visited, he was the perfect picture of a successful man. But only Felix knew the truth, that every block in the walls, every chair, every window, had been bought with the sweat and sacrifice of his brother Caleb. One sunny afternoon, there was a knock at the big glass door. When Felix opened it, two familiar faces stood there, his uncles, Mr. Maxwell and Mr. George. "Ah, my uncles. Please come in," Felix said with a wide smile. He led them into the sitting room and offered them seats. After a few moments of light talk, Mr. Maxwell leaned forward and cleared his throat. "Felix, we came because we need your help." Felix tilted his head. "Help? What happened?" Mr. George gave a small smile. "You know, times are hard. We thought of coming to you because, well, you're doing well. And besides," he glanced around the mansion, "you have more than enough." Felix folded his arms, waiting for them to continue. Mr. Maxwell looked him straight in the eyes. Felix, we know this mansion is your brother's sweat. Every coin that built this place came from him when he was in the USA. But when the matter came up, we decided to side with you. Felix raised his eyebrows slightly but said nothing. Mr. Maxwell continued, we didn't side with Caleb because, frankly, he wasn't a wise man. That's why he ended up deported, jobless, and bankrupt. But you, he waved his hand around the room, you have money, and you've promised to take care of us. Mr. George nodded in agreement. Yes, Felix. That's why we stood by you when he accused you. We knew, with you, we could get something. So now, we have come to collect. Felix leaned back in his chair and gave a slow smile. He liked the sound of that. He stood up and went to a small safe in the corner of the room. Pulling out a bundle of cash, he placed it on the table in front of them. Hey, fool both of you. And don't worry, there's more where that came from, as long as you remain on my side. The two uncles grinned, picking up the money like children grabbing sweets. Ah, Felix, you are a good man, Mr. George said. Caleb may be blood, but you are the one who knows how to take care of family. Felix smiled to himself as they left. He poured himself another drink, feeling proud. In his mind, he had won. Caleb was gone, his uncles were loyal, and the mansion was his. But far away, in a small gatehouse, a man who had been betrayed by everyone was quietly planning his rise. It had been a month since Caleb started his job as a gateman. Life was quiet, simple, and lonely. One Saturday morning, he decided to walk down the road to buy a few things. He was still in his faded gateman uniform when a voice called from across the street. Caleb, Caleb, is that you? He turned around slowly, and there, standing beside a small shop, was Michael, an old friend from years ago. Michael's eyes widened. Caleb, I thought you were still in the USA. What happened? Why are you in a gateman uniform? Caleb forced a small smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. It's a long story, Michael. I was deported. Came back with nothing. Michael's jaw dropped. Deported? But where do you live now? Caleb looked away. I have nowhere, really. Just managing in the small gatehouse they gave me at work. Michael shook his head slowly. Caleb, you don't deserve this. I can never forget what you did for me and my family. Caleb frowned slightly. What do you mean? Michael stepped closer, his voice filled with emotion. 4 years ago, when my wife gave birth through a cesarean section, I had no money to pay the hospital bill. I was desperate. I sent you a message on WhatsApp, remember? And without asking questions, you sent me the full amount. You saved my wife's life, Caleb. You gave me hope when I had nothing. And now, to see you like this. Michael's voice cracked as he shook his head. No, I can't watch this happen to you. You will not sleep in a gatehouse again. You can stay in my house and go to work from there. Caleb was silent for a moment. He felt his throat tighten. This was the first genuine kindness he had seen since coming back. Michael, thank you, he said softly. Later that afternoon, Michael took him home. It was a modest 2-bedroom apartment, but it was warm and welcoming. Michael's wife, Lillian, came out as they entered. Ah, darling, welcome. Who is this? She asked with a curious smile. Michael placed a hand on Caleb's shoulder. This is my friend I've told you about, the man who paid your hospital bill when you gave birth. 4 years ago, he was in the USA then. Lillian's eyes widened. She stepped forward and greeted Caleb warmly. So you are the one. God bless you. You may have forgotten, but we will never forget what you did for us. You gave us joy when we could have lost everything. Caleb tried to smile, but his eyes were wet. It was nothing. I only did what anyone with a heart should do. No, Lillian said firmly, it was not nothing. And you will always have a place in this home. They welcomed him like family, even though they didn't have much. That evening, as they sat together eating simple rice and stew, Michael's face was still full of shock. Caleb, what about your wife? What about your brother? He asked quietly. Caleb's smile faded. Slowly, he told them the truth. How his brother took the mansion he built with his own sweat, how his wife threw him out because he returned with nothing, how his mother and uncles sided against him. Michael's fists clenched on the table. Why? Why would a family abandon their own like that? After all the sacrifices you made for them, after all the love you gave, how can people be so wicked? Caleb's eyes burned. I thought they loved me. I thought blood was everything. But I see now, they only loved what I could give them. Michael reached out and placed a hand firmly on Caleb's shoulder. Listen to me. You are not finished. I don't care what they've done, you will rise again. And when you do, every single one of them will know what they lost. Caleb lowered his head, his heart still heavy, but for the first time in a long while, a small flicker of hope warmed his chest. A few months later, everything still looked perfect for Felix. His love for showing off had become his signature. Every weekend, he hosted parties in the mansion, music loud enough for the whole street, expensive drinks flowing like water, and flashy cars parked in his compound. He loved attention. He loved to be seen. To everyone, he was the rich man on the hill. But deep inside, Felix had forgotten where his blessings came from, and whose sweat built the foundation of his wealth. One Friday night, after another loud party, Felix and his wife, Jane, decided to take a late-night drive around the city. The road was quiet, the breeze cool, and the streets glowed under the dim streetlights. Felix was behind the wheel of his new SUV, one hand on the steering, the other holding a drink. His wife sat beside him, scrolling through her phone, laughing at messages from her friends. "Darling," she said, smiling proudly, "people can't stop talking about our party. You're the talk of the town." Felix grinned, taking another sip. "That's how it should be. Let them talk. Nobody in this area can match me." He was still speaking when bright headlights suddenly flashed from the opposite lane. A truck was overtaking carelessly, coming straight at them. "Felix, look out!" Jane screamed. He tried to swerve, but it was too late. A loud crash tore through the night. Glass shattered. Metal twisted. Screams filled the darkness. 2 days later, Felix woke up in a hospital bed, his head bandaged, his body covered in bruises. He could barely move. Beside him, his wife lay unconscious, her face pale, her leg in a cast. A doctor walked in quietly. "You're both lucky to be alive," he said. "But your wife will need major surgery soon, or she may never walk properly again. The cost will be very high." Felix's heart sank. "How much?" "About 20 million Nigerian nairas," the doctor replied. "And that's only the beginning." Felix's mind went blank. Jane's condition was serious, and the hospital bills began to pile up quickly. To save her life, Felix sold everything. The expensive cars, the jewelry, even the designer clothes he once bragged about. He emptied every account, but no matter how much he paid, the bills kept coming. Each passing day, the money ran out faster than he could find it. Piece by piece, their wealth vanished. By the time all the phases of the surgery were over, they had nothing left but the mansion itself. 2 months later, Felix and Jane returned home from the hospital. The compound was silent. No visitors. No laughter. No noise. Just the cold walls of the mansion staring back at them. Felix stood at the balcony, looking around at what was left of his so-called perfect life. For the first time since taking Caleb's house, he felt something he had never felt before: regret. The taste of luxury was gone. And as the wind blew across the empty compound, Felix finally began to understand what it meant to lose everything he never truly owned. Days turned into weeks, and life became harder for Felix and his wife, Jane. After selling almost everything to save her life, the only thing they had left was the mansion Caleb's sweat had built. The hospital bills had drained all their money. To keep surviving, Felix used the mansion as collateral to start a new business, hoping it would bring money back into their lives. At first, it seemed promising, but without enough capital to sustain it, the business collapsed within months. Debts began to pile up. The bank started calling, demanding repayment. Then came another blow. Their only son, who was studying in the USA, called home one evening. His voice trembled over the phone. "Dad, the school is threatening to expel me. My tuition fee is due, and they said I'll be deported if I don't pay soon. Please, Daddy, do something. Please." Felix's heart broke as he listened. His son had always been his pride, his proof of success. And now, even he was begging. "I'm trying, my son," Felix said softly. "Please give me a little time. I'll find a way." But there was no way. There was no money, no business, no help. Night after night, Felix sat on the balcony of the once beautiful mansion, his head buried in his hands, his mind filled with confusion and guilt. He thought of Caleb, the brother he betrayed, the man whose sweat and sacrifice built the very life now crumbling before him. One evening, Jane wheeled herself into the living room, her voice sharp and filled with bitterness. "Felix, what kind of man are you? Every man out there is hustling to feed his family, to send their children abroad. But you sit here doing nothing while our son faces deportation. Shame on you." Felix looked up weakly. "Jane, I'm trying. I've done everything I can. I even started another business. What else can I do?" Jane's eyes flashed. "Go out there and make money like every other man. I don't care how you do it, just do something. You're not a man if you can't provide for your only child." Her words pierced his chest like a knife. That night, Felix couldn't sleep. He walked around the empty rooms, remembering the noise, the laughter, the parties that once filled the air. Now, there was only silence. 2 days later, a loud knock came at the glass door. It was the bank officials, with a court order. They had come to repossess the house. Felix begged, pleaded for an extension, but it was too late. The mansion, the pride of his life, was gone. He packed their few remaining belongings into an old bag and, with trembling hands, wheeled Jane out of the compound. Jane couldn't hide her emotions as they left the mansion that once symbolized wealth and comfort. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she sat quietly in the wheelchair, sobbing softly while Felix pushed her away from the only home they had ever known. The neighbors watched silently as the once proud man slowly pushed his wife's wheelchair down the street. No home, no friends, no money, and no means to pay his son's tuition. For the first time, Felix truly understood what it meant to lose everything. Things became very hard for Felix and his family. From the bright lights of the mansion, they now found themselves in a single room that he and his wife shared. Felix was always deep in thought, wondering what to do to pay his son's tuition fee as the 6 weeks deadline approached. Meanwhile, across the city, Caleb was still living quietly with Michael and his wife, Lillian. They had taken him in when he had nothing, shared their food with him, and never once made him feel like a burden. One cool evening, Caleb called Michael and Lillian into the small living room. His face was calm, but there was something different in his eyes. "Please, sit," he said. They sat, a little curious. Caleb took a deep breath. "There's something I've been hiding from you. I was never deported." Michael blinked. "What do you mean?" Caleb's voice was steady, but it carried weight. "I had been living in the USA for many years, sending money to my brother Felix and to my wife, Jennifer. I came back to Nigeria to test them, to know if I returned broke, would they still love me, or only the money I sent. So, I lied. I wore old clothes and acted like I had lost everything." Lillian covered her mouth in shock. Caleb continued, "I needed to be sure who I could trust, who could manage my new real estate company that I'm planning to launch. My wife failed me. My brother failed me. Even my mother and uncles turned their backs. But you," he looked at Michael and Lillian, "you took me in when you had nothing yourselves. You gave me a roof, shared your food, and treated me with respect. You showed me love without asking for anything in return." Michael sat frozen, his mouth slightly open. Caleb smiled faintly. "Now, I want you, Michael, to be my managing director of my new real estate company." Lillian gasped. Are you serious?" Caleb nodded. "Yes, dead serious." Tears filled Michael's eyes. He tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. This was a future they never imagined, a complete turn from struggling to survive to stepping into a world of possibilities. Weeks passed, and Caleb's new real estate company began to flourish. The office was always buzzing, phones ringing, clients arriving, and contracts being signed. Michael worked tirelessly as the managing director, ensuring everything ran perfectly. Lillian often stopped by to help with small tasks, proud of how far they'd come. One afternoon, Caleb called them both into his office. He looked at Michael with a smile and said, "You've done for me what my own family never did. You believed in me when I had nothing. You both deserve more than just words." He opened a small box and handed Michael a set of keys. They stared at it in shock. "It's a car," Caleb said softly. "A small token of appreciation for your loyalty and your love." Lillian's hands trembled as she held the car key. Tears streamed down her face. "We never imagined kindness could be rewarded like this. Thank you, Caleb." Caleb smiled warmly. "No, thank you. You reminded me what real love looks like." Weeks later, Caleb's real estate company grew beyond anything he had ever dreamed. The office was alive with activity. His name began to spread far and wide. Newspapers wrote about him. Billboards carried his company logo. One bright morning, Caleb was invited for a live TV interview as the CEO of one of the fastest-growing estate development companies in Nigeria. The cameras captured him walking confidently into the TV studio, dressed smartly in a dark suit. Standing close by, managing the media team, was Michael, the same man who had taken him in during his darkest days. "Mr. Caleb," the TV host smiled, "your story has inspired millions. From humble beginnings to being the CEO of one of the largest estate companies in the country, what's your secret?" Caleb's voice was calm but firm. "Success is not just about money. It's about people. The people you trust, the people who stand by you when you have nothing. My journey taught me that real wealth is having the right hearts beside you." Meanwhile, in a cramped, dimly lit one-room apartment, Felix and his wife sat on the bed watching the program. When Caleb's face appeared on the screen, they froze. Jane's voice trembled. "Is that not Caleb?" Felix's heart thumped painfully. It's him." They watched in silence as the camera showed Caleb surrounded by workers, with Michael right behind him giving instructions. The man they had both treated like nothing was now a respected millionaire. Across town, in a small rented flat, Jennifer sat on her bed scrolling through a phone. She had just seen a social media post about Caleb's success and the TV interview. Her hand shook as she stared at the screen. The same man she had called useless, the same man she rejected because she thought he had no future, was now a millionaire and a respected CEO, making headlines across the country. Her heart pounded. "I left him. For what? I threw him away because I thought he was nothing." Regret weighed heavily on her heart, and tears slowly rolled down her cheeks. 2 weeks after Caleb's interview aired, guilt began to weigh heavily on Jennifer's heart. No matter how hard she tried to move on, the image of Caleb's calm face on TV wouldn't leave her mind. At night, she could barely sleep. The man she once mocked, the man she threw out because he returned with nothing, was now everything she had ever prayed for in a husband. She wiped her eyes and whispered to herself, "I was blind, so blind." The next morning, she made a decision. Jennifer dressed simply and boarded a bus to the small neighborhood where she'd heard Felix and his wife were staying. When she arrived, she was shocked by what she saw. Felix sitting outside a small, worn-down apartment beside Jane in her wheelchair. The once proud man looked older, thinner, defeated. "Felix," she said softly. He looked up, surprised. "Jennifer." Her eyes filled with tears. "Please, don't ask questions. I just needed to see you. I saw Caleb on TV. He's doing so well. And ever since that day, I've not had peace. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I humiliated a good man." Felix sighed deeply. "You're not alone. I've been living with that pain too. Everything I touched since betraying my only brother has failed. Even my son's school in the USA is threatening to deport him because I can't pay his fees." Jennifer placed a hand on her chest. "Oh God, this is our punishment." Felix nodded. "Yes, but maybe we can ask for forgiveness before it's too late." Jane, who had been silent all along, looked up at them and said softly, "Then let's go. God might have softened his heart by now. We should all go before it's too late." Felix looked at Jennifer. "Let's go together." The next day, they set out. Felix pushed Jane's wheelchair along the road, while Jennifer walked beside them, holding her little daughter's hand. The journey was quiet. Each of them was lost in thought, haunted by memories of how they had treated the man they were now going to beg. When they arrived at the entrance of Caleb's estate office, the security men tried to stop them. "We're here to see Mr. Caleb," Felix said politely. The guards exchanged looks. "Do you have an appointment?" Before Felix could answer, Michael appeared from inside the building. His eyes widened in surprise when he saw them. "Felix? Jennifer?" he asked. Felix nodded humbly. "Please, Michael, tell him we're here. We just need a few minutes, that's all." Michael hesitated for a moment, then quietly went inside. Inside, Caleb was in a meeting with some partners when Michael whispered in his ear, "Sir, your brother and Jennifer outside. They said they want to see you." Caleb froze for a moment. The room suddenly felt heavy. "Tell them to wait," he said quietly. He ended his meeting early and walked slowly toward the entrance. When the glass doors opened, his daughter immediately broke free from Jennifer's hand and ran straight into his arms, calling out, "Daddy." Caleb bent down quickly, hugging her tightly as tears filled his eyes. Jennifer stood frozen, her lips trembling as she watched them. "Daddy, I missed you," the little girl whispered. Caleb held her close, his voice barely steady. "I missed you too, my angel." Caleb looked up. Then Felix immediately fell to his knees. "Brother, please forgive me," he said, tears already streaming down his face. "I wronged you. I let greed destroy my heart. I betrayed your trust. Everything I touched since then has turned against me." His voice cracked as he continued, "My son's school in the USA is threatening to deport him because I can't pay his fees. I've lost everything, Caleb. The house, the business, even respect. Please, help me. Please find it in your heart to forgive me and give me one last chance." Caleb looked at him quietly. His heart was heavy, but he wanted to speak. Before he could, Jennifer cut in, sobbing. She stepped forward slowly, her voice breaking. "Caleb, I don't even know how to start. You gave me everything, and I threw it all away. I called you useless. I humiliated you. I'm not here to ask for pity. I just came to say sorry. You didn't deserve the way I treated you." For a moment, the only sound was the wind blowing through the compound. Caleb finally spoke. His voice was calm but heavy. "I've learned a lot in the past months. I've learned that life repays everyone according to their deeds. I've also learned that forgiveness takes time." He took a step closer. "I can't say I've forgotten the pain. I haven't. But I won't turn my back on your son, Felix. Send me his school details. I'll pay his tuition in full." Felix gasped, overwhelmed. "Brother, thank you. Thank you so much." He wept openly, and Jane also thanked Caleb while sobbing. Caleb turned to Jennifer and said, "Jennifer, the court sent a letter last week." He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a folded envelope. "They've approved shared custody of our daughter. She'll stay with you from Monday to Thursday, and with me from Friday to Sunday, alternating weekly." Jennifer covered her mouth, tears flowing freely. "Caleb, you're still so kind. I don't deserve this." Caleb looked away, his voice soft but distant. "This isn't about kindness. It's about doing what's right. But I'm not ready to have either of you in my life again. I'm not angry anymore, just not ready. Maybe one day, when the wounds heal, we can all start over. But not now." After a brief silence, he turned to his daughter, lifted her into his arms, and walked slowly toward his car. He helped her into the back seat, got in, and drove away slowly. Felix, Jane, and Jennifer stood there watching, silent, broken, and full of regret. The sound of the car engine faded into the distance, leaving only the whisper of the wind and the ache of what they had lost. 2 months later, during Christmas, joy filled the air once again. The sound of drums, laughter, and distant Christmas songs echoed through the neighborhood. That morning, Caleb had organized a surprise for his mother, Mama Stella. It was something she never expected. A brand new house, beautifully furnished and shining like hope itself. Family members, neighbors, and friends gathered to celebrate the housewarming. The compound was beautifully decorated with balloons and ribbons, and the sweet smell of fresh paint and jollof rice filled the air. Even Felix, his wife Jane, and Jennifer were there. Jane, who had once been confined to a wheelchair, could now walk again, slowly, but with gratitude in her eyes. Yet, as they stood among the crowd, there was a quiet sadness around them. Felix, Jane, and Jennifer watched from a distance, their smiles faint and their hearts heavy with shame. They were still haunted by the memory of how they once treated Caleb. A few minutes later, the music went down, and everyone gathered in front of the new house. When it was time, Caleb stood beside his smiling mother and handed her the keys. "Mama," he said warmly, "this is your house now. You've suffered enough. You deserve peace, comfort, and joy for the rest of your days." Mama Stella burst into tears of happiness and hugged him tightly. "My son, may God bless you. You've made my old age sweet." The crowd clapped and cheered, singing and dancing as she raised the keys high in excitement. But a few moments later, Caleb raised his hand for silence. His voice grew calm and serious. "There's something I need to say," he began. "A confession I've carried in my heart for too long." The compound grew quiet. Everyone turned to him. "I was never deported," Caleb said slowly. "I wanted to test my family. I had been away for many years, sending money without seeing you. I planned to open my real estate company, but I didn't know who to trust with it. So I came back pretending to be broke, lying that I was deported, just to see if the love would still be there without the money. But you all failed me." Gasps filled the air. Mama Stella's smile faded as she covered her mouth in shock. Felix stood frozen, guilt tearing through him. Caleb continued, "But along the way, I found love outside the family, through Michael and his wife. They took me in when I had nothing. They gave me food, shelter, and respect. That's what family is supposed to be." Jennifer covered her face and sobbed. Felix lowered his head, too ashamed to speak. After a pause, Caleb took a deep breath and added quietly, "But it's all in the past now. I've moved on. I've learned to forgive. After all, we're still family." Mama Stella reached out and hugged him tightly, tears of joy returning to her eyes. "My son, you have a good heart. May your blessings never end." The music started again. People clapped and danced. Mama Stella danced joyfully around her new house while neighbors cheered. Caleb smiled as he watched her, the pain of the past slowly melting into peace. Felix, however, stood quietly in a corner, deep in thought. He whispered to himself, "One day, my brother and I will get along again. At least he's paid all my son's tuition. Maybe that's a start." After the celebration, as Caleb walked toward his car, two familiar voices called out behind him, "Caleb." He turned and saw Mr. Maxwell and Mr. George approaching slowly. "Caleb," Mr. Maxwell began, "there's something we need to confess." Caleb crossed his arms, silent. Mr. George sighed. "It was Felix who made us side with him. He promised us money, and we allowed greed to blind us. Please, forgive us." Mr. Maxwell nodded. "Yes, my son. We're sorry. We were wrong. And we also wanted to ask if you could kindly support us financially. The economy has been hard." Caleb looked at them for a moment, his face unreadable. Then he shook his head slowly. "When I needed family, you chose money. You both showed me what greed looks like. I forgive you, but I won't repeat my mistake." Without another word, he entered his car and closed the door. They watched as the car disappeared down the road. Both of them stood there, broken, speechless, and full of regret. The man they once betrayed was gone, leaving behind a painful lesson they would never forget. The end. Moral lesson. True love isn't proven by wealth but by loyalty when everything is gone, because while money may buy comfort, only genuine hearts stand the test of time, and those who betray the ones who trusted them will one day find that regret is their only companion. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more emotional and inspiring stories every week.